Well, good morning and welcome to the University of the Ozarks. It is September 25th. It is 11 a.m. and my name is Rich Dunsworth, and I am pleased to serve as the president of the University of the Ozarks. So welcome and thanks for joining us, whether you're joining us live or whether you're watching the recording at a later date. Know that we sure appreciate your engagement and your continued interest in the institution. While we're live, if you have questions, just please feel free to type them in the comment section, and I will answer them as we hit to the end. Also, if you're watching this recorded, we know that folks sometimes will then also drop questions in after today, and we take a look at it over the next couple of days to continue to answer folks' questions and hopefully continue to stimulate this engagement or active engagement. I have, I don't know, 5 or 6 topics that I want to hit with you today. First, it's still fall here. I joked last week that fall had arrived and was teasing us, but it really feels quite lovely out. It's cool, it's gorgeous. Well, it feels like homecoming weather, to be quite honest. And guess what's 9 days away? Homecoming. Now, please know I wish that included tents on the mall and tents at the athletic fields and tents in the backyard and what 900 to 1,000 of our friends coming back together and well, reveling in the stories and remembering when and know that we wish that was going to be, but it's not. But we also believe we've put together a pretty robust, maybe even more robust online and virtual schedule to allow us to continue to recognize our friends, that allow us to continue to hear alumni tell their stories and hopefully share what they've been able to do since leaving Ozarks with their peers and also our students. So please hit the website, check out the homecoming schedule. If you're on Facebook, you probably are getting the Facebook messages that are saying, hey, it's time to register. And if you can register for the different events, you can purchase a homecoming t-shirt, and you can start to give us an idea of how you'd like to engage us here, well, on October 5th when it kicks off. So please, as hopefully you're walking about and you're feeling like fall, think homecoming. For our parents and our students, just as there's a vibrant schedule for our alumni and friends for homecoming, we also do quite a bit of programming for our students and for our parents. So when you see that, log in, take a look at it, and you'll see different schedules throughout the week. And I encourage you to take advantage of and attend as much of it or as little of it as you would like. So let's start with COVID, which is why we started these conversations. What was that, 5 months ago? So where are we today? A snapshot. We have administered about 520, I believe it's 522 tests for COVID since we started. We've had 474 negatives. Some folks look at the positivity rate and it's a variable, but it's just one variable. At the moment, we have one active case on campus, and we update that information every day at noon. So if you log on after noon today and it's different than what I just said, know that it's updated every day at noon. We've had a few questions about, well, what's it like in quarantine and how does this work? Well, know that if a student was quarantined 5 weeks ago and did their 14 days, and if a student goes into quarantine today, those experiences are quite different. And a lot of that's because we're a learning organization. So if you were to be quarantined today, a student were to walk in or be quarantined, we would basically tell them, grab a bag of just your essentials, your iPad so you can continue in classes, and maybe a few books and clothes. We got you covered. You walk into one of our quarantine spaces and there's a series of, there's packets. There's a guide to, hey, here's what it looks like for food. You do the QR code, you load the app, and you order your meals online. Almost, well, almost like you're calling room service, but it's not quite there. Further, there's an explanation of, hey, here's everything you've got. The linens, you've got towels, everything on the bed, really like you're checking into a hotel. We got you covered with anything and everything you need. And then we ask for our students' help. And there are a series of things like this around the space that when they walk in, they should see nothing but green. They should see that everything's ready to go for them, and that we then ask if they touch anything, if they use anything, they just flip them. So that then our staff knows that when they're in a space, they can very quickly ascertain what the condition of it is. They assume they've got to clean everything, but that also gives them some warning and some prep for the kinds of spaces. It also invites the students into the challenge, because this is a challenge that we're all trying to manage and we're trying to do. And I think we're taking pretty good care of our students, and we're riding out the ebbs and flows, where we had our peaks, and we continue to stay in single digits. And I think that we're handling it pretty well. I mentioned food and the food app that students have been loading. And then last week I walked around the cafeteria to try to give folks a feel for what it feels like. Know that we're also ramping up more assessment, more surveys, more, hey, students, what are you thinking? What are you missing? How are there menu items that you long for? Are there things that you wish we would do? So that we're doing that much more frequently. A big push is going out, either went out yesterday or goes out this morning, to inquire that to students. Hey, you've kind of got a feel of it. What's next? What should we do? And that's all being driven by our partners at Aramark, and Joshua Gorham, who's our local director, because he knows food is comfort. I mean, he and Susan, the production manager, they know food is comfort, and they want to give our students that level of comfort. So if your student is, here's for my parents, if your student's saying, hey, I don't like the food, ask them a question. Did you fill out the surveys? Did you tell them you don't like the food? Give us a chance to fix it. Sometimes cafeteria food needs a reboot, and that's what we're trying to do weekly to ensure that the folks are getting what they need. Campus activities. Let's talk a little bit about choices we're making as it relates to campus activities. And it's often a tension of opposites. I'm reminded of a book that described it as a rubber band between your wrists, and if you pull one, the other one has to go. So we've got these dances, and it's a tension. We're doing really, really well in managing COVID. So on one hand, it is, so don't change anything, right? Don't change anything. Well, but to manage COVID really well, we restricted a lot of activity. We restricted what we expect for student activities and athletics and student engagement and some of the life of the campus. So we're releasing some of those restrictions. And as we release some of those restrictions, we hopefully will find an equilibrium that allows us peak activity with the least risk. So know that we're moving some things. So if you hear students, if you hear faculty, if you hear staff saying the rules are changing, they are, and that we're doing that with intention. So what does that look like? Well, we've opened up Ozarks Outdoors for students to be able to check out equipment. Yes, they've been able to check out bikes the whole time, but now they can check out the camping gear, the outdoor adventure gear, the kinds of things that allow them to enjoy the Ozarks, especially in September and October. Now it's with the hope and expectation that they continue to do masks, they continue to do social distancing, but we're creating opportunities for them to engage each other. We've kicked off intramurals. We've kicked off the kinds of outdoor programming. The Director of Student Engagement has released the restrictions, the initial restrictions on student organizations that's allowing them now to do programming and events. Now, I didn't say released all of the restrictions. She's still saying, hey, if you're going to do anything face-to-face, we'd really like it to be outside. We wish for you to maintain social distancing, and we wish for you to maintain wearing masks. And that's our effort and our commitment to work with students and try to give them as much of a campus experience as we can. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I'll say it again, that we often talk here about the human interaction and the yearning for connection. And it's also going for so much as touching. And you guys have heard me say many, many times, it's weird not to shake hands on a sidewalk. It's weird not to put your hand on somebody's shoulder and say, how's your day? Asking how's your day from 6 feet apart feels different, but that's what we're doing. And then we're finding these other opportunities to create the human interaction and the social interaction for our students. Probably the last piece I want to mention, and then we'll see if we have some questions, is now's the time of the semester. I said last week or 2 weeks ago that the doldrums start to set in. First exams are coming out. I have a freshman seminar I'm teaching, and I had a student, we do highs and lows for the first couple of minutes of each class. What's the high since the last time we met? What's the low since the last time we met? And one of my students looks at me and says, I got a C. And I said, well, good job. And she shook her head and she's like, no, President Dunsworth, I don't get C's. And it opened up a great opportunity to talk about the changes in grade distribution from high school to college. That it's not uncommon for A students to earn a few B's their sophomore year, or excuse me, their freshman year. It's not uncommon for B students to earn a few C's their freshman year. So if you're working with one of my students and you're seeing that decrease in grade, especially in the first 8 weeks, well, we don't like using the word normal, but well, that's pretty typical. And that it's a pat them on the back and go, hey, all right, we know where we stand. Now, what do we need to do to improve, right? That first midterm, those first couple of exams, it really is, where do I stand? All right, now I know. And know that we have amazing support that comes from the Office of Student Support Services and the Learning Center, where if a student needs a tutor, if a student needs a little extra help, we're going to get them a little extra help. If they need a lot of extra help, we're going to try to find them a lot of extra help so that they can be as successful as they wish to be. So with that, we're doing okay with COVID. Homecoming's 9 days away. We're working pretty hard on food and the responsiveness to students, but we don't know everything. So let us know if you see something we don't see. And then as you hear about students getting more engaged and active, please know that we're doing that with some limitations. And please affirm masks and social distancing as we continue to ride this out. One other thing that I forgot to mention, spring. In the coming weeks, we'll release the spring academic schedule. That then gives students several weeks to look over the schedule and start thinking about meeting with their advisor to register for their spring classes. We had hoped that would be further along as it relates to a vaccine, as it relates to treatment. We hoped we would know more at this time. In light of where we are, we're evaluating the spring academic schedule. And the prevailing thought today, this isn't an announcement, it's a prevailing thought. The prevailing thought today looks something like this. No spring break. We delay the start of classes a week in January. We still have a 3-day at Easter with Good Friday, no classes. And then we commence that second week, almost third week in May, so that we keep commencement where it was, we keep the schedule the way it was, but we would start 1 week later in January and we wouldn't have spring break. Please know, I know that folks go, yeah, but spring break is a chance to refresh and this and that. I said, it is, but it's also one of those places where people go into the winds and then they come back. So that's the schedule we're toying with. It's a poor choice of words. That's the schedule we're working with, and we're running threat assessments on what the choices and the opportunities are, so that when we release the spring schedule, students will know when classes start, when they end, what the choices are, and then they'd have a week longer break over the winter holiday before returning for the semester. So same number of weeks in classes, same number of class periods, just a slightly modified schedule. So that's what I hope to tell you. Now I'm going to slide over and see where we are. Will students displaced from North Street apartments this semester be returning to those apartments in the spring? No. That we moved people out of College Street apartments. We moved some people out of North Street apartments. We moved some folks out of some of our rental homes that we own. And then we also moved a few folks out of what we call the duplexes that are just north of campus. No, they won't be invited to return to that space. We'd hoped they would, but because of where we are, we assume we're going to be running quarantine and isolation throughout the spring semester. So the one place I might retreat from that hard no is that if there's other movement around campus and we know we've got enough quarantine beds, we might, but then it all gets into, well, if you only can move 2 people back, which two of the 20 get to move back? So my assumption is no. Any other questions? For any of you on live or watching it later this next week, know that we're thankful, know that we're grateful. We're doing well, and I hope if you're an alumni or alumnus and you're a friend, I hope you're proud of us. I hope if you're a parent that you go, okay, I think my son or daughter made a really good choice. If you can't say those things, let me know. rdunsworth@ozarks.edu. Let me know where we're falling short. Let me know where we're knocking it out of the park. I love telling folks, hey, I heard from a parent, you did a great job. Thank you. Keep doing it. And let's keep this conversation going as we move into October. As we move into October, we get closer and closer to the election. Last week we did voter registration, voter drive on campus, encouraging students to register locally and vote locally. And that we'll continue to encourage students, making sure they know where the polls are, making sure that they understand the choices, and know that when I'm involved in that conversation, I love it at the end when a student says, I can't quite figure out where you stand on anything. And I'll just smile and say, okay. And more often than not, they go, that was an invitation for you to tell me. And I go, nah, that's not my place. I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to talk about values. We're going to talk about positions. We're going to talk about different issues. My hope is that you're civically engaged and you're voting. So know that if you're hearing about us giving folks a little push on campus over the next month, or if you heard last week, us sitting out in the mall, the chaplain and myself and a group of students going, are you registered to vote? Yes, we're encouraging civic engagement. We're encouraging active citizenship. And with that as a backdrop, say a prayer for our president, say a prayer for Congress, say a prayer for the Supreme Court, and the loss of a justice. And while you're there, say a prayer for us in the University of the Ozarks. So God bless, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.